Hey folks, welcome to the April 28th, 29th Embedded SIG. So this one covers the USA and Asia Pacific. So we have colleagues from around the globe on the call today. Not a huge number, small amount. So as is typical with these calls, we would normally get folks who are on the last call to recap what was said and what the progress was. Yeah, I don't know if you feel comfortable giving us a recap if you were on the call last time and wanted to give us an update. It's okay if not. I've just listened to the call so I can try. So the call 2 weeks ago was really the feedback from the WASI, some discussion on setting up the long-term support. There was a lot of to-do list items that came out of it. Some of it was good when you're not on the call, and then you listen to it and you find out that you had a lot of to-dos to do. So that was good. So I was on the hook. Um, so the call last week summarized the goal of setting up a long-term support version of WAMA and a libc. It's did that. It also pointed out that this would be an implementation, not a standard, and explained the differences between the two. There was interest from Collins Aerospace in working on the embedded platforms and trying to find some way to define APIs for GPIO and CAN bus interfaces, which was interesting too. So that's something I also wanted to raise with Luke actually in this call. See if we can brainstorm those ideas as well. Maybe get back to Collins after the call with some advice and recommendations. So that came up, and then Christoph Pettik gave a small update on, or a precursor to the last WASI subgroup meeting, where he gave the update, an abbreviated version of the update that Luke gave during the WASI subgroup meeting, where he just informed people of the progress for the preview 3 work and how that was progressing. And then some details, extra details on how it was being used inside AutoZAR and how it was enabling multi-language integration and some of the advantages it was providing there and how they were using it and without WebAssembly and with WebAssembly. So that was good. And we've still got Christoph Pettik on the hook to try and give the embedded SIG a more detailed presentation about exactly how it's being used and some of the tricks and tips he's done with the native implementation too. So we have all of that up ahead of us. In the call, then it was really just a recap of what had happened. The to-do list items for me consisted of trying to gather support for the embedded SIG in a more formalized way via a memorandum of understanding. So that process is ongoing. Of course, as soon as I mention the word memorandum of understanding, it means I need to bounce it off a legal team at Siemens. So all of that fun is in progress at the moment. And as is the search for the longer term support. So which is also good. Officially, my role is research. So that research role is coming to an end as we see WebAssembly within Siemens become adopted across the company. And as that adoption increases and products near shipping, the focus shifts away from research, of course, towards more of a long-term support. So it matches exactly what we're doing externally with the LTS discussion, but it also means that we have to find a new home or a new department, really, that should take it on inside Siemens. I'm hoping it's still me, but it would be a different funding mechanism because all the fun and games of corporate finance and how research teams are funded. So that's the work on that's going ahead at the moment. So there's no real updates other than that it is still in progress and pending updates on the GitHub repository, which needs to happen. Stephen is putting together a list of wish list items for the long-term support and what that might be. So that wish list kind of coincides a little bit with some of the requests we've seen from Collins Aerospace. So my understanding is that Collins Aerospace is formally part of Raytheon RTX in some way. Um, and the Collins colleagues are looking for this integration, which raises this interesting problem. So if they wanted to ship this in the near term, they would probably want to base it on a WASI LTS implementation, which would be the P1. But they want to define a set of new interfaces, which eventually they would like to see standardized. But they're going to want to implement it, one would assume, on the current in production version of WASI, which is the preview one. But we'd need to work out how to define it in a way that would work really well when it doesn't go with preview one, but goes with the component model in its final form. So I guess this is one of those things where it's great to have Luke on the call to brainstorm, best practice for this advice we can give people. That's an item I'd like to discuss today. But apart from that, I actually didn't see anything on the agenda for further discussion. Although if there's anything anybody wants to discuss, we should cover it now and make sure we carve out the time to do so. So it's a small group today.
Starving sounds fun. The thing you're just talking about.
Yeah, yeah. So best way of doing it, if you were going to do it really quick, you would just go, hey, use the WebAssembly basic types and define your interface. It's possible. Probably not the most desirable way to do it for forward compatibility, but possible. Or you could say define it in the component model style and have it implemented that way and then port it back to preview one. So I know this question's outstanding. We haven't responded in any detail to Collins, but we really should. It's not good that somebody shows some interest and we don't get back to them. So that's something we have to do. But it's good to be on the call so we can brainstorm best practice for this.
Yeah, well, I mean, if they're going to base it on WASI P1 LTS, then kind of business as usual is if you want to add extra functionality, by which I assume I'm talking about like extra imports that are implemented by their runtime that kind of like sit alongside the WASI P1 LTS ones.
Mhm.
Well, it would be business as usual to add more core imports and kind of define them. And then the only suggestion would be like, it might be nice to look at WIT and say, in the future, I could rewrite these things into WIT. This is what they would correspond to. But do you literally have to use WIT and then do the thing where you sort of like say, oh, this is the canonical ABI for it, and we're going to use that instead? That might be a little too much work. It might be like, well, in the P1 LTS timeframe, one kind of hand rolls their core function imports. That's already what the rest of P1 LTS is doing, so might as well just keep doing that instead of trying to do some sort of hybrid. But it would be useful to like say, or involve a person who knows WIT like me or anyone else to say, hey, this is what I wrote in my core function imports. Would you suggest any changes to make it more future WIT friendly? And then what you would hope is when they hop from P1 LTS to, let's hope, 1.0 LTS, then they would, take whatever they had previously done it and say, here's the WIT version. And then, maybe write some source code that like keeps the existing source APIs working in terms of the new WIT bindings. So there
Mhm.
would be like a recompile with the WIT and the source code wouldn't change, but it would now emit a component in the 1.0 LTS. So, that seems like what we'll probably want to do for WASI P1 LTS code is recompile, but now it produces, start using WIT and it spits out a component. So they could do likewise. So that's why you kind of want to have an eye towards WIT, but you don't have to literally use it in the short term because probably there's a recompile step. And as long as people are fine with the recompile step, that's the easiest way. The harder way, right, is you take a core module that was generated before and then you make a special adapter like we've done for P1 to P2, like we're
Mhm.
doing in Fastlane. We gave a WASM-IO talk about. That's what you do when you're like, I have these binaries. I want to run them exactly as is. Then you adapt them. That's the harder way. It's a little more magic because you
Mhm.
have to like do some low level fiddling. But if you can accept a recompile when you change LTS, then it simplifies life, and gives you a lot of options.
That makes sense. So we should probably give some design guidance then. One of the things I'm really keen to do is making sure that we set up the embedded SIG and anything that's going into the LTS for longer term success. So if I can formalize the advice in a guidance document on you should do it like this, here's the idea, then we can do that. People can follow it. If it doesn't work quite the way we hope, we can update it, and then it's there for perpetuity going forward. And if it's not me but somebody else that's involved, it's all there, and it's not institutional knowledge that disappears. So I'm kind
Yeah.
of keen to do that. So I'd like to, here's me giving myself an action item. I'm going, is just to go through and I'll get back to our Collins colleagues and um, give them the heads up, but also go through that sort of guidance for what might go into an LTS. I'll probably put that up as a draft PR for now, but it shouldn't be anything too big. Maybe a couple of paragraphs just to give people a heads up on how it works. Then the other thing to do is to reach out. There's an academic group that's been working on microcontroller APIs and USB interfaces, and they have gone down WIT right now.
Right.
So,
Oh, is this Merlin's team?
yeah, thank you
Yeah,
for the
yeah,
name. I
yeah.
forgot. Yeah, that's Merlin. So I should get back to him and let him know that there's a potential user, which would be Collins, and also see if we can um, give him the heads up. If you well, we have the LTS thing coming, and it's a P1 based, so you could do it, should definitely do it in the WITS world, but there might be a need for a more hand-rolled version for the P1 LTS environment, and just give him the heads up and the option to contribute even to the document because he might see something in trying to produce a hand-rolled version of it too. So it'd be good to get his eyes on it if that team's interested in working with Collins. So if they're going to go through the same steps. It'd be a nice
Yeah.
practical test case, I suppose, of it.
Cool. Yeah, I'd be happy to also, yeah, review whatever, yeah, PR you post on.
Yeah, yeah. Mental note. Don't commit it. Put it up as a PR for discussion
Mhm.
first. Yes. Things you learn. Yeah. So I'll do that. That sounds good. So that was the only major item I wanted to discuss today. It's a pretty small group. Um, so I'm happy enough to wrap up the call early if there's nothing else we want to discuss. I know it is early in the morning in China and in the Asian Pacific time zone, and it's after 8 p.m. here on the East Coast, so I'm sure it's late where everybody else is too. So it'd be good. If there's nothing else to discuss, we can wrap up the call. Okay, going once, going twice, and thank you very much. I'll hit the hang up button. Not the stop recording. That's the one. There we go.